everybody. This is going to be the a trial run of the first section of my Pro Shop Clinic or Pro Shop Seminar. I worked myself into a little bit of a pickle here. I've filmed this a couple times and ended up being close to 35 minutes because I was doing some demonstrations and reading the text. So I thought I'd do a long and a short version. The short version just reading the text, the long version doing the text and the demonstration, but it seemed kind of redundant to me. And also, apparently, I can't upload videos any longer than 15 minutes to YouTube, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me, because I like to ramble and get into stuff. But what I think I'm just going to go ahead and do two parts. I'll go ahead and read the text, and then I'll do some demonstration. I've also got a story to tell, too. Sorry about the lighting, but there's not a whole lot to see in this video, and the lower the resolution we can show my face in, the better that'll work out for me, so... my first section is on fit. It's entitled The Perfect Fit. I think that fit is the most important thing in bowling. It's one of those things, like, if you put a pair of clown shoes on Usain Bolt, he's just not going to win anything. That's just, no matter what kind of preparation you put into it, having a good physical game, good mental game, whatever, if your ball doesn't fit, you're not going to be comfortable, and you're just not going to bowl well. I have an opening statement and a closing statement. I'll read the opening statement, and I do want to read the closing statement. It's the closing statement for the entire seminar, but I think it's an important point to make, and it's something I want to say. So I guess I'd better go on ahead and just get into this. The purpose of this seminar is to attempt to close the gap between the Pro Shop operator and the customer. Bowling ball technology has literally exploded in the last 20 years and continues to evolve quickly. Many things have changed, some even so fast that full-time Pro Shop operators have difficulty keeping up with it all. The conventional wisdom and practices of the past have in some cases become obsolete, and in other cases found to be completely opposite of the current instruction and procedures. This has caused what seems to be a rift between pro shops and their customers, as either one or both parties aren't up to date on the cutting edge of bowling technology. With this seminar, we will attempt to set the record straight, let you into our world, and try to close that rift. The perfect fit. Having a ball fit your hand properly is as important as a football player's helmet fitting right or a runner's shoes fitting right. Not having the correct fit can cause more problems than simply being uncomfortable. Let's start by talking about hands in general. Hands are like fingerprints or snowflakes. Everyone's hand is different. When we go to fit someone, we can't just use blanket measurements or a generic approach. We have to examine each and every person's hand while we are starting the fitting process. Some people have long fingers, short fingers, some people have dry skin, moist skin, etc. These things must be considered and factored into the fitting process. Hold out your hand like you're holding a ball and look at the natural position of your hand. We will start with your fingers. Look at the position they are in and the angles they're at. Conventional wisdom of the past was to drill the finger hole straight down towards the center of the ball, and the idea behind that was that the more the angle there was, the more lift you would be able to create. For some people who have flexible hands or who are double jointed especially, this may be necessary for a proper fit. However, for most of us, this isn't the case. There are a few different problems this can cause. The closer to the bottom of the finger holes are to your palm, the further you have to wrap your fingers under for them to come in contact with the front side of the finger holes, and that can cause finger pain. It can fatigue your fingers quickly, and trying to dig into the ball can actually rock your entire hand forward on the ball and potentially cause thumb problems. If we angle the hole slightly away from the palm in the direction your fingers want to lay, we can relax the hand and bring the front side of the finger holes closer to your fingers. In the past, they would have said this would cause you to fall out of the ball or dump it, but this isn't the case. In fact, it works very well for higher rev players to keep their hands from getting tired, and unless a significant amount of reverse pitch is used, it won't negatively affect their rev rate. Now take a look at your thumb. If your hand is relaxed, you should notice that your thumb points in relatively the same direction your fingers do. In the past, they would drill the thumb away from the palm, thinking that it would make it easier to release the ball. While it sounds like a good argument, it can actually have the opposite effect. To start with, your thumb isn't nearly as flexible as your fingers are. If you try to bend your thumb away from your palm, you'll find that it won't get very far. Angling the thumb away from the palm can cause one of the worst habits in bowling, gripping. While it may sound like more reverse angle would help you release the ball easier, what it actually does is make you grip harder to hold onto the ball during the approach. Then when you go to release the ball, the gripping can cause you to stick. Gripping can also lead to ball reaction issues. Next, we will talk about your span. All elements of fit are important, but errors in a few key areas can cause problems for an otherwise proper fit. For instance, a span that is either too long or too short can cause finger or thumb problems even if the finger and thumb fit is correct. Ideally, the span should allow you to keep your entire hand relaxed while your fingers are in their proper position. A rule of thumb is to have enough room between your palm and the ball to slide a pen or a pencil between them. Your thumb socket, where your thumb meets the base of your hand, should be directly above the thumb hole. And what I mean by that is that when you have your thumb in there, the socket should be directly above the hole. It shouldn't be out, it shouldn't be back, it should be directly above the thumb hole, and that will allow your thumb to come straight out upon the release. If your thumb is pulled out or pushed back because of an improper span, this can cause you to grip and reorient your hand on the ball. The pads of your fingers also need to come in contact with the front sides of the holes. And what I mean by that is when you stick your thumb into the bowling ball, you want the pad, you don't want to grip, but you want the pad, or most of the time for the thumb, it's probably the best to have it contact with this knuckle. But if you grip, that's not going to be a contact point. You want this to be a contact point. If you grip, you have 3 contact points. You have one here, you have one on the back of your thumb, and you have one on the very tip of your thumb. It can cause calluses on the back of your thumb. You can have to have excessive beveling on the front side of the thumb hole, and you can also have some discoloration in your tip of your finger. And that's another thing why gripping is bad, because instead of 1 contact point here, you have 3 contact points that you got to overcome. Now we will talk. Let me see. Okay, the pads of your fingers also need to come in contact with the front sides of the holes. If the crease at your first knuckle on your fingers is the only thing contacting the hole, while the tips of your fingernails are contacting or rubbing against the back sides of the finger holes, this is an indication your span is too long. However, if you have a tendency to really dig in with your fingers past the first knuckle while your thumb socket is correctly placed above the thumb hole, this is an indication your span is too short. So if your thumb is placed correctly in there and you're digging in your fingers past this joint or this seam, that's an indication your span is too short. If you're actually contacting about right there and the tip of your fingernail is rubbing against the back side of your hole, it's an indication that your span is too long. Let's see, now we will talk about pitches, or the angles at which your finger and thumb holes are drilled. Similar to span, pitches that are wrong in either the fingers or the thumb can cause problems elsewhere. As I have touched on before, too much reverse in the thumb can cause you to grip the ball and or shift your whole hand forward, while too much forward pitch can give you problems getting out of the ball and or shift your whole hand back. This section is a little thick right here, so I'm going to try to slow it down and show you step by step. Too much reverse in the thumb to cause you to grip the ball and or shift your whole hand forward, which means basically is if you've got forward pitch, or if you've got reverse pitch in the fingers, which is away from the palm. Basically, if you ever heard somebody say back pitch, it's basically the same thing, it's just reverse, which means it pitches it away from the palm. Well, what that does is it causes you to rotate your entire hand forward. It just naturally, because of the position, to get your thumb in the correct position, if you have reverse pitch, it's going to rotate your whole hand forward on the bowling ball. If you have too much forward pitch on the other side, trying to get your thumb in the proper position is going to rock your hand back. And the opposite of that, you have to think about it, it's the same concept, but it's just opposite directions. Too much forward pitch in your fingers can rock your entire hand forward, or trying to dig under for forward pitch or zero pitch rocks your hand forward, while reverse pitch actually slides your thumb hole, or it slides your whole hand back. Problems can also snowball if you aren't careful. Improper fit can contribute to going further and further in the wrong direction. Trying to correct it if you or your pro shop operator can't correctly identify and fix the core problem. For instance, if your fingers are pitched too far forward and your hand slides up towards the fingers, the thumb slides slightly out of the thumb hole, causing it to bend, and it results in gripping to hang on. Gripping causes release issues such as a manufactured or incorrectly identified sticking of your thumb. And what I mean by that is, if your thumb is sticking while you've got your thumb straight in the proper position, you've got a case there. But if you're gripping and saying that you're sticking, you're not actually sticking, you're gripping. And if you get used to gripping and say, well, I'm sticking, come out of the ball, we'll have a lot of people do that. They'll actually, well, I'm sticking, but they come out and they've got their thumb all anchored like this, and that's just not the way that we want to do it. So if they say, well, my thumb sticks, can you make the thumb hole bigger? If your thumb sticks, most people automatically assume there's an issue with the thumb hole. Assuming thumb hole issues, a correction will be wrongly made to the thumb hole, either in making it larger or adding reverse pitch. However, either of those, while at first seeming like a fix to the problem, will compound the problem by making you grip even tighter. Because if you make the thumb hole bigger or you add more reverse pitch, it's just naturally going to come out easier anyway. which most of the time makes you grip even tighter, like I said. An increase in thumb hole size or adding reverse pitch to the ball can also make the span feel short. And it can make the span feel short because most of the time when you start gripping or you add reverse, your hand starts to come out of the ball, because if you're gripping and you've got your entire thumb in the ball, it's harder to come out. So most people will slide their thumb out. Well, what this does is essentially adds, depending on how much you pull your thumb out, it can add 1/4 of an inch, or actually subtract. It will subtract 1/4 of an inch from your effective span, which would be from here to the tips, or to the creases of your thumb hole, or the finger hole, sorry. But if you pull your thumb out, there's probably 1/4 of an inch, or even up to 1/2 inch sometimes, is what you're actually subtracting from your span. And so what it'll feel like is that your span's getting shorter. You'll end up digging your fingers in a little bit more, and so you say, gosh, this just doesn't feel right. Look at how far my fingers are going in when their thumb's hanging out like this. So once you enlarge the thumb hole and you add reverse pitch, you can feel like it's short. However, it can strain your entire hand if you lengthen the span. Instead of adapting the ball to your hand, you actually start adapting your hand to the way the ball is drilled. Once your span is stretched out, your fingers will begin to change their orientation of the finger holes. You will find that your fingernails will actually start rubbing against the back sides of the finger holes, and the front edge of the finger holes might start digging into your fingertips. A problem now compounded will take much more to fix than it would have if the problem had been correctly identified to begin with. All these issues can cause your thumb to enlarge dramatically, and can even cause darkening in the tips of all your fingers. Excessive calluses can develop, and numbness while bowling is even encountered in extreme cases. If you have any of these problems, now is the time to fix them. With all your newfound knowledge, you can now fit yourself, and we'll see how close to or far away from your current fit that we are. It'd be this point in the seminar where we'd have several fitting balls out, and people, hopefully if I've written this well enough and communicated it well enough, they should be able to go on ahead and take the techniques and take the ideas, the concepts in here, and be able to basically fit themselves. Once you know what you're doing, the actual fitting process is more about what you're feeling. I'll talk about this a little bit later when I actually do the demonstration. I got my ball here. I don't have the fitting ball. I wanted to do this in the pro shop a couple days ago, but my lane certification video took too long. So I'm going to show you some kind of crude demonstrations here with one of my bowling balls. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut the video off here. I got to come in that 15-minute mark, and I'm getting close here, so I'll go on ahead and cut this off right now. I'll tell you the story I was talking about, and I'll show you my fit and explain that a little bit. Thanks, guys.